Members of the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Alliance, a caucus made up of representatives from both houses of parliament, have voiced their worries on the governance and economic conditions in Kenya, stating that they will direct their supporters to government offices to seek solutions to their issues. The parliamentarians claim that Kenyans are being misled and led around in circles on economic issues, and they want to look for convincing responses on their behalf. In a press conference organized by MPs led by Minority Leader Edwin Sifuna, they discussed the current economic condition in the country and gave historical facts to provide context. Mesh Musimbi.
Of Azimio One Kenya Alliance, a caucus made up of representatives from both houses of parliament, have voiced their worries on the governance and economic conditions in Kenya, stating that they will direct their supporters to government offices to seek solutions to their issues.
So before you is a caucus of the Azimio One Kenya Alliance members of parliament. We have a statement here that we are going to read in turns because we want it to be clear and understood by the audience, that is the Kenyan people. We come before you as a caucus of the Azimio One Kenya Alliance, drawn from both houses of parliament, who have seen the need to seek answers on pressing economic and governance matters on behalf of the citizens of Kenya.
The parliamentarians claim that Kenyans are being misled and led around in cycles on economic issues, and they want to look for convincing responses on their behalf.
We have a shared concern that Kenyans are being lied to and taken round in circles, particularly on the issue of the economy. While we will continue participating in the public barazas where the issue is equally being canvassed, we want to bring this matter more decisively to the public discourse. Where need be, we will take it ourselves to government offices if that can help us get coherent and believable answers on the matter of the economy, which we can then share with the citizens of Kenya.
In a press conference organized by the MPs led by Minority Leader Edwin Sifuna, they discussed the current economic condition in Kenya and gave historic facts to provide context.
Although we want to address ourselves to the present situation, we wish to present some brief historical facts for purposes of context. This is not the first time Kenya's economy has gone to the dogs.
They asserted that the economy was only growing by 1% when the National Rainbow Coalition (NAC) took office in 2002, but by implementing initiatives that will produce results.
When the National Rainbow Coalition took power in December of 2002, the economy was at its lowest. It was growing at about 1%. The World Bank, the IMF, and most bilateral lenders had cut funding for Kenya. Tourism had collapsed, the road network had collapsed, infrastructure was in tatters, corruption was at its highest as the only thriving industry in the country.
The coalition was able to quickly reform governance, strengthen the microeconomic framework, and end economic stagnation. They urged the Kenya Kwanza regime was not able to replicate the same.
Were estimated to be in the range of 500,000 customers. But NAC did not set about writing a book of lamentations about how bad the situation was. NAC did not set about telling people how bad the situation in the country was. The people were already feeling that the situation was bad. Instead, the new regime set about programs to ensure that the people started benefiting from the electoral victory. Within months of coming to power, the NAC government presented the country with a result-based program of priority government actions designed to meet the medium-term objectives of economic recovery strategy for wealth, employment, and creation. I will let my brother Enoch Wambua proceed from there.
After being sworn in, since putting the Bible down and prices refusing to come down, Kenyans were told fertilizers had been bought, still prices refused to come down. Then we were told Kenya has licensed GMO foods, still prices refused to come down, and the economy refused to pick up. Then we were told to wait for 6 months. Each time the months arrive, the goalpost shifts again. We want answers, and if they do not come in the next few days, we'll have no option but to lead our supporters into these offices for answers. We will follow these officers anywhere and everywhere for answers and not warnings. You should be aware that we even have junior secondary, which is having teething problems. In many of the schools, there's no learning, there's no teaching. Many of the schools, they only have a single teacher who is unable to even assemble the lessons. The questions are, did we take over power without a plan?
The Azimio MP said President William Ruto constantly criticized former President Uhuru Kenyatta and that the present administration has been blaming the outgoing administration for the economic precarious state. The MPs countered that because Ruto was the deputy president at that time, he cannot escape responsibilities from the economic state of the nation. They further emphasized that Ruto created new offices that have no influence on the advancement of the nation and boosted the state house budget from 4 billion Kenya shillings to 9 billion Kenya shillings, purportedly for tea and mandazi.
Now, this issue of Kenyans being reminded all the time that somebody took money, somebody did what they did. As you pursue that line, which is okay. If somebody stole money, then go for those people. But as you do that, tell us what you're doing with the money that you're collecting now. Because you're collecting money now. Yeah, you're collecting money now. When you came into power, by whichever means you did, the previous government had subsidies for basic commodities. You lifted those subsidies. What are you doing with that money? We need to see you doing something, not always complaining.
The MPs questioned Ruto's current economic thinking and accused him of breaking his promise to refrain from borrowing by engaging in a borrowing buying. The Azimio MPs pledged to take part in public barazas and bring up the issue in government cycle to get clarification on the economic state.
We will take our people to Professor Ndungu's office so that he can explain to Kenyans what the plan is in terms of economic recovery. We don't want people to continue threatening to name individuals who have looted Kenyan money. If you have the names, call a press conference like this and tell Sifuna took 10 million. We have sent the details to the DCI and to the ESCC, the accountability agencies. Let them do the investigations, because even Kenyans want to know. But we cannot have a government of lamentations. They don't have any plan. Every time they come, they tell us about the previous regime. The Kenya Kwanza administration, if it is an administration, must now start accounting for its time. For its time, for the time that you've been in office up to today. We have shown you by way of examples what the NAC government did in a matter of months. These characters who impose themselves on Kenyans, they have no plan. That's what we are saying.
And maybe to add on that, Gateta, maybe to add on that.
They underlined the need of having a well-defined plan with priority programs, identify essential activities within each program, presented budgetary, estimated and financial gaps, outlined the implementation schedule, and agreed to set of measurable goals.
The government needs to come out and tell us and tell Kenyans that they have a plan for any of these things that we are addressing. We are tired of people, over-articulating the problem. As we have said, we have seen previous governments that arrived that were prepared on day one to tackle the problems of Kenyans. These matters cannot wait any longer, because we represent people here in Nairobi, across the country. Kenyans are suffering. All they want to know is a plan. And every time we are told, 6 months, 1 year, and the goalposts keep shifting. What we are saying is, if we as the representatives of the people have been unable to extract a plan from these people, from the so-called government of Kenya Kwanza.
For Maisha Prime News, Maisha Television, I'm Simbi Mesh.
And he spoke to the media and told you to be patient. There will be a media address similar to this one tomorrow to set out the next course of action that we will be taking as a coalition.